and welcome back to the Barely Bookish podcast. Today we are continuing on with the interview with a vampire TV show with episode 4, and I'm joined by Candace.
Hi.
So now that you finished it, how much do you love it?
Oh yeah, I love it. It's great.
Right?
It does. It does. It grows on you like a delicate ivy/moss.
Mm-hmm.
And I was not. I don't know. I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it at all. I think the fact that they made it so different from the book was its
Mm-hmm.
saving grace,
Mm-hmm.
because when you read the book and you watch the movie, you kind of know beat by beat about what's going to happen, right? There's substantially less about Armand, substantially less about Louis' travels with Claudia,
Mm-hmm.
less about their lives together before and after Claudia. Like, there's stuff that's been omitted, but like it's the same story, right? You can sit
Mm-hmm.
there and wait and get exactly the story you think you're going to get, but this show has, like, they deal in touch points.
Mm-hmm.
Um
Which I love.
And yeah, I really like that, because I think a lot of series, right? They fall into the trap of, I have to be exactly like the series. I mean, exactly
Mm-hmm.
like the book, which can be fun, right?
Mm-hmm.
No lie. Like, that can be super fun. Like, having a book that you love get brought to life the exact way that you see it in your head, that's deeply satisfying, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I think Interview with the Vampire the movie is so great, because it absolutely gives you what you expect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um but then there's people who are like, no, I want it to be totally different, right? It needs to
Mm-hmm.
be like a whole other thing instead. Like, I want like a completely different existence and a completely different reality. And I want to like set it in the 1800s, even though it's set in modern times in the book, and blah, 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 right? There are people who just want to go off the rails. And sometimes that works, right? Like Dickens, a lot of the stuff that Dickens has written, his whole catalog of books, whenever
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of translated up into, our world, or Shakespeare, right? Lots and lots of modern retellings of those older, texts. And I think that, again, to differing degrees, are they good, right? I've seen some Twelfth Nights that are present day Twelfth Night that are amazing. I've seen some Twelfth Nights that are set in like the Italian Renaissance that are terrible, right? There's never a guarantee of,
Yeah.
how good or bad something is going to be, just because of its setting and how people are kind of utilizing it. But I think that something I've seen less successfully is a complete deviation from the narrative, which is
Mm-hmm.
what Kindred kind of tried to do, right? Kindred was like,
Yeah.
this is the way that we envision and understand this story being updated for 2022, right? Like, we're gonna put this specifically, or 2020 really is, because that's when it was set. But like, they're
Yeah.
very specific about the rules that they establish, and then they don't abide by any of their rules, right? And
Also,
they
like
don't.
an AU 2020
Yeah,
because
yeah.
there was no COVID.
Correct. So like, why set it in 2020? Like, why be so specific about when it's happening? Like, or
Yeah.
2016, whenever it was, right? So I think that like what that show was missing and was lacking is that it didn't take the core concepts of the book as touch points,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then filled it with other things. It kind of was like, we're going to give you the story, but we're going to change major pieces of that story that
Mm-hmm.
completely change the context of it. There is no context changing in this show, right? They go deeper on the homosexuality, right? Because Anne Rice famously has been very open about Lestat being bisexual, and, him being
Mm-hmm.
very open and interested and very fluid and all that stuff, right? Tons of examples of it in the book. I'm pretty sure he's lovers with both Akasha and Ankil at one point. So like, all they're doing is taking her memory, and again, her son's memory. Her son is a queer author and screenwriter. So
Mm-hmm.
taking that information and then applying it to this show, right? Intimating what she might have wanted now that she is gone, and trying to make a world that makes sense, but without completely betraying the original text. And I think they did that fabulously. Like
Mm-hmm.
the little I was about to say touch points again, and then I was like, I should say stakes, and then I was like, you can't say stakes on a vampire podcast. So
That's funny.
the little tent poles that they put in the ground, I'll say,
Mhm.
are wonderful because it reminds you what you're watching. It grounds you in the story, but then they can give you like a different understanding of what's happening, right? So instead of having a conversation where Louis is all like messed up because he's like, oh, my brother is dead, and maybe I should have believed in him when he said he was hearing voices and seeing visions, like it's
Mhm.
totally within the realm of reason that, I'm a vampire. Maybe he was seeing and hearing angels, right? Instead of doing all of that, they instead make Paul a deeply religious man who's clearly autistic, right? He's got some
Mhm.
challenges, some neurodivergence, and they show a family that is patient with him,
Mhm.
right? That indulges him because they want to keep him calm, and keeping him calm comes down to listening to him and taking him seriously, right? And we see what
Mhm.
happens when he's not taken seriously. It's very rough. There's a lot of push and pull. Things get dicey. So I think
Mhm.
that like that kind of allowance is important because you can completely reinvigorate your story. Like taking it and making it almost a continuation of the original rather than a mirror image. Just genius. Like really genius. Like the people who worked on it, that was very smart. Especially because now you can extend this story as much as you want. It doesn't have to end. Because I mean, we know in the book Louis walks away, right? Louis is still
Mhm.
alive. I'm not sure. I haven't read deep into the Vampire Chronicles. There's just so many. Um, but I mean, there could be another book that Louis has a whole life where he talks and they can pull
Yeah.
information from that, right? So I don't know. I'm very impressed. I really didn't think I was gonna like it this much. Like I would
I
watch it
was so
again.
nervous you weren't gonna like it, and then
Yeah.
I was like, whenever you were texting me about it, like things you didn't like, I was like, wait till the end. Wait,
I
wait.
admit I'm a snob. I admit.
No, it's fine. I mean, one of us has to think critically, and it's not me. Okay. But I was like, I binged it all in one day. So I
Hmm.
know that I for sure had rose colored glasses because that's kind of just what happens when you watch it all at once. You
Sure.
forgive and forget all of the things that were like probably like a little grady, and then
Hmm.
you're like, ah, it's fine. We finished it. It was good, and I want more. So
Yep.
everything was great. But yeah, I was surprised how easily it was to watch all of it. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't normally watch a season in a day. Like, I've never, like, I got to my parents' house where my sibling lives
Hmm.
at, I think like 10 a.m. because, or no, it was like 9.
Hmm.
And we just started watching it. We grabbed lunch and then just kept watching
Hmm.
and didn't stop. And we finished by like 5 o'clock. So
So good.
yeah.
Hmm.
So it's definitely one of those that you can watch in a day if you have a do nothing kind of day.
Yeah, I feel that.
But let's get into discussing episode 4.
Whew.
So in the present day, where like basically Daniel gets handed Claudia's journals, which I
Hmm.
think this is a really nice way to have Claudia tell her own story.
Agree. The agency is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they because it's more than just for the audience, right? It also
Mm-hmm.
gives you insight to Louis' heart
Mm-hmm.
and where he's at with it, right? The fact that he keeps them in these like pneumatic tubes, right? These like little vacuum sealed like
Mm-hmm.
archival boxes, right? Like you can tell that they are treasured even though they're not treated as they're treasured, right? You can see the wear and tear on them. You can see how she kind of just would throw them wherever, right? Like you can see
Yeah.
like random bits sticking out of it. Like it looks the way you'd expect a teenage girl's diary to look, right? You can
Mm-hmm.
tell like you can even see kind of over time with the design and the style of the covers, like
Mm-hmm.
where she must have been in her headspace. Because the first one is very girly, right? It's very girlish. It has, like a big ribbon on the front. It says Claudia written, in cursive and stuff. And it's very showy. But then you get like later volumes that are like more mature looking, right? They're more like a leather bound journal or a journal that has a really nice like floral print on it or something like that. Not as childlike
Mm-hmm.
as she grows up, right? And I think that touchstone is just so important to kind of give you this ever presence from her, even in the future, right? Even in our present day. Because in the
Mm-hmm.
book, it's all you've got are memories of this one person, right? You don't get a 360-degree view of who she is. And I love the agency that they gave her in this 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. I think it's a great way to bring her in.
Yeah.
I really like this a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It just shows me that like they care more in this.
Yeah.
I feel like with Anne Rice, she was very much like, okay, here's your one story, one interview from one man. And in this
Yes.
one, it's like Louis wants him to be able to have the full story. He's like, I'm not a reliable narrator.
Mm-hmm.
I I will mess up. So here is it in concrete writing for you from her point of view.
Yes. Yes. And I like that. I really enjoy the slow burn of
Mm-hmm.
trust between
Mm-hmm.
Daniel and Louis.
Me too.
Like, it's a very kind of gradual, um it's a very gradual kind of trust of like, we've met before. We know
Mm-hmm.
one another. We are familiar, right? But like, I don't know you. And like, saying that Louis doesn't know Daniel and that Daniel doesn't know Louis, right? Those two men are intimately aware of each other, right? Not
Mm-hmm.
intimately like sex, although I have suspicions, but
I
intimately,
mean,
yes, intimately aware of each other in a more like, Louis has done the research, right? He knows he has
mm-hmm.
Parkinson's before he gets there. Like,
Mm-hmm.
he's watched interviews with Daniel, right? Daniel has listened to those tapes with him and Louis so often that he knows exactly where to find when he confronts Louis about like a mistake or an error
Mm-hmm.
between his old story and his new story. He knows exactly where to find it. Like, he's familiar. You know that he
Yeah.
has, you know what I'm saying? That he has had this conversation before and that he's
Mm-hmm.
listened to it multiple times. So like, these two men are deeply familiar with each other, yet they don't trust each other, right? Like, you can see where each of them are trying to give a little trust
Mm-hmm.
and where they each demand a little trust, right? Where they need the
Mm-hmm.
trust of the other person to get where they're going. And you can see like the hesitance on Louis's face as Daniel touches Claudia's things for the first time. Like, you see that love and that passion and that support is very much still alive, right? Like, he still
Mm-hmm.
feels that way even though she's been gone for however many years. And granted, we don't know in this book, I mean, in this version, in the show, that she dies. Like, we're not sure. I mean, anything could happen, really. Um,
Mm-hmm.
it could be, a fake my own death situation with Claudia. It could be, a real one. Like, we don't know yet. But I do think that, like, it is a beautiful symbol of who Louis is as a well-rounded person while still giving Claudia like some say. I love how Eric Bogosian plays Daniel, because he's so like wary,
Mm-hmm.
but at some points really feels like he wants to be taken in, right? He feels like he wants to drink the Kool-Aid like really bad. In
Mm-hmm.
some parts, he's just like, well, anyway, and he gets really wrapped up in the story and he's like really
Yeah.
deep with him. And then he'll be like, and then something will fuck him up. He'll see something like the big Russian man comes in and is like, I'm here for your food. And he's like, ew, I can't have this conversation. Or like they're
Yeah.
eating this dinner and he's like getting, his service in front of him or whatever, his like blood service. And like Daniel's just like, I guess I'll just keep eating my creme brulee. And it gets weird, But like, I really like just this very kind of, I don't know, it's like this friction between
Yeah.
these two men, and I'm like, how is this going to change next season? um,
I know. I'm obsessed.
I need to know, when is it out? Is it tomorrow? Because that's when I need it.
Literally. I'm like, okay, you know what? Whatever. I'll renew my subscription.
You've got
Oh,
me for another $8, AMC.
yep.
God damn it.
Yeah. I think next time though, whenever the next season comes out is when I'm gonna binge Mayfair Witches too. See what that's all about. May as well, since I'm already gonna pay for it.
Yeah, I think I will too.
Yeah. So we flash back to the past, right back into the story. Claudia was brought to their house, um, and Louis gets Lestat to turn Claudia because he's like, "This is all my fault.
Hmm.
None of this would have happened if it's not for me." And I just want to say I'm obsessed with this version of Claudia.
Yeah.
I
For 5
love
minutes, I
her.
was annoyed. For 5 minutes, I was just like, "This is too much. Your accent is not great. I don't know how I
Mhm,
feel about you." They picked, like, the lightest skinned actress in the world, but at the
mhm.
same time, like, I like that she looks like she could feasibly be theirs,
Yeah.
right? Like, she looks biracial,
Mhm.
and I like that she very quickly gets over her babyishness.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to spend a ton of time with, like, petulant petty ass Claudia, right? Because she's a
Mhm,
little girl in a grown woman's body, blah blah blah. Like you still get those moments,
mhm.
but especially like right at the beginning, I was just like, please don't be annoying. Um, Kirsten Dunst set a very high bar for
Yeah.
Claudia in Interview with the Vampire. Like I've never seen such acting. I think she was nominated for an Oscar for that performance.
Mhm.
If she had won, she would have been the second youngest person, I think, or third youngest person to ever win it, among up there with Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon and Anna Paquin for The Piano. Um,
Mhm.
so I think that I don't know. It was very well deserved.
Yeah.
The nomination, very well deserved. She did a fantastic job, and you can see how it absolutely nailed the trajectory of her career in place. Right, like she
Mhm.
really came out swinging. And I'm looking at this actress, and I'm like, okay, so you're probably over 18, like playing young, right? I doubt that
Mhm.
she's a teenager in real life. But I felt she was very believable. Like she's when she's scared, she's really scared. When she's rebellious,
Mhm.
she's absolutely rebellious and feral, right? Like I think that she swings through her emotions smoothly and
Yeah.
comfortably, and I really enjoyed that.
I think I looked her up and she's younger than I thought she would be.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, like I have to look her up again. And she's
Yeah.
been in other things, but I don't remember what.
Hmm.
I don't
I'm
know
glad that
why.
I don't know if
Oh,
she's a nepo. I don't know if she's like a new actor or if she's a nepo baby,
I
but
couldn't
I
tell
hope
you.
that she's a new actor because
Are you looking her up?
there's. Yeah, her name's Bailey Bass.
Yeah.
She's 19. Yeah, so she's a
Okay, yeah.
little. Hmm.
Not that far away from the age she's playing, which is
No.
nice.
Oh, she's from Avatar. Well, I'm never gonna watch those
Okay.
movies, so.
That's what my siblings were. My sibling was like, "Oh, I've seen her before," and that's why because they had just seen Avatar.
She left the show.
What?
Yeah. I just looked her up and she said, due to a variety of unforeseen circumstances, I'm unable to return to Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire for the second season.
No, I loved her.
Me too. I'm so sad.
I wonder what the
I guess
circumstances are.
someone named Delaney Hales is going to take over. Production on season 2 begins next week in Prague, and that was
Hmm.
on March 31st of this year. So,
Okay, so it started a couple weeks ago.
yeah, at least we know it's coming. But it
Yeah,
stinks that she's not going to be available because I really enjoyed her.
I mean, with Avatar and Interview, I
That
she's probably
it's
pretty burned out.
it's probably Avatar that's taking up all her time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't blame her. That's a pretty hefty schedule. It sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are they doing a third Avatar movie?
Yeah, they're doing a bunch.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's weird.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. They probably pay better for Avatar too,
Oh,
so
way better.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the girl they have for season 2, she's very pretty. She doesn't look the same. Like I'm looking at a
Okay.
picture right now. She doesn't
Yeah.
look the same, but she's lovely. So, hopefully she's just as good of an actor and
Yeah.
things will be wonderful.
Fingers
Um
crossed.
yeah, I guess she's a stage actress.
Okay.
Um Everybody else is back and someone named Ben Daniels is going to be Santiago.
Hmm. Is he handsome?
Let's find out. Sorry, viewers. We're just listeners. We're just figuring
These are
things
things
out.
we need to know.
You
Yeah.
know, it's important. We're doing the work for you. Ben Daniels is a grown man. He's 58 years old. So
Nobody is making Santiago the way I think he should be made.
no, not at all. Um, but I'm excited. He's been in a lot of creepy stuff.
Okay.
So he was Mr. Decker in Torchwood. Like I've seen him before. He's a queer actor. Done some stage stuff as well as
You know what?
um
I'm just gonna choose to trust their judgment. They wowed me with season one.
yeah.
I'm gonna assume that season two is gonna be just as good, and
Yeah.
I'm not gonna hold anything against them. I'm
Oh,
just gonna
okay.
let it be.
He's also from Game of Thrones. If you've seen Game of Thrones, you know Ian
Yeah.
Gelder. He was Kevin Lannister, who was the hand of the king.
Oh,
I think Joffrey's hand before
okay.
before Tyrion, before Tywin Lannister comes in.
I like
Yeah.
kind of remember, but I'd have to see him
If you
again.
saw him, you'd be like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Um one of those.
I saw something talking about the guy who plays Louis. Apparently they said that the guy who made the language in Game of Thrones, the Valyrian
Mhm.
language,
Yeah.
said that his accents are so good that it sounds like he would be a native speaker
Ooh.
of the language he created. And I'm like, which you kind of see that even with his New Orleans accent is really good,
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
Like you could have fooled me. You
Yeah.
could have fooled me.
Agree.
He's like a really good actor. I hope that after this he's in a lot more stuff because I think he's phenomenal.
You're talking about Jacob Anderson?
Hmm.
Mhm. Agree. Yeah.
I
Yeah, I
think this
like him a
showed,
lot.
yeah, I think this showed a lot more range for him than the Game of Thrones did. So, fingers
Yeah.
crossed.
Yeah, definitely agree. Yeah, this guy Ben Daniels, so his husband is from Game of Thrones.
Hmm.
But he's been on a lot of things, some fancy, some not great, but I do enjoy him in general as an actor. So I'm excited to see him. Um I'm excited to see where his situation goes because again,
Okay.
I mean, so far I have not been disappointed with anybody they've cast in this show. I don't think I have a single complaint.
Yeah.
Even when the cast member doesn't look the way that I think they're going to look in my head,
Hmm.
um, I'm still I'm still happy with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not mad about any of it. So
Yeah. I looked up Ben Daniels. I'll allow it.
yeah,
I'm waiting to see. I'll
yeah,
cast. I think I feel like it's probably truer to obviously Armand's type,
yeah,
but like it's not who I would have thought for Santiago because I imagine like a younger boy
same.
toy situation. But like if he's super into Louis,
Well, I mean, what I like is that if he's super into Louis and and Louis is into this older, more distinguished gentleman, right?
hmm
Especially if he's antagonistic, which we know he's going to be that whole "I'm going to pull your hair and fill your locker with with rodents because I love you" kind of
hmm
love that he shows.
hmm
Um, if that's who he's going to be as a person, like I know in the book they describe Santiago as being very big, like they talk about him like he's strong, right? And in
hmm
my mind, Santiago is like a wayfish Gerard Way looking motherfucker, right? Like he's like a real he's a real sensitive man who has long hair and he's real poetic and he has a mischievous wolfish grin, but like
yeah,
in my head he's like slight, but in the
yep,
book they literally describe like when Louis is in the alley facing him down, like
hmm
he fears for his life. Like he's like this guy is going to wreck me, right? This guy is going to
yeah,
just flatten me like a pancake. And I've seen Ben Daniels in Doom, which let's not
hmm
talk about whether or not it's a good or bad movie. I personally think it's a very bad good movie. So,
hmm
but he plays this very kind of like I don't know, he's like the religious one. Like how there's archetypes in any,
hmm
SWAT team or whatever. He's like the religious like southern one that's like got muscles and he's like a man of
adorable.
few words, right? He doesn't talk a lot. He's no nonsense. So, I'm very interested to see his range here of how he's going
Yeah.
to play Santiago because he's such a clown. Like
hmm
he's an unintentional clown who's
I'm
going to take
excited.
offense to being called a buffoon, which we know that this version of Louis is going to be perfectly fine doing that. I think the only issue that I'm having with this timeline that I dislike
Hmm.
is that I feel like there's more of a crunch because there's only so far in the future they can go because they've already established that 2022 is when this is all taking place, right? And when we
hmm
get season 2, feasibly, the most it can be is he came there in wintertime and now it's 2023, right? That's the
hmm
best they can do is that it's going to be 2023. Um so like I feel like the ages of the vampires are different in this than they are in the 76 version. Like Louis is a little older
hmm
in the 76 version because we start in the late 1700s. But here we're
hmm
starting in the early 1900s. So you're already chopping off like 100 years of experience.
Yeah.
But I like how they kind of have passively addressed that, especially in the final episode. So no spoilers, but
hmm
they've kind of partially spoken to that. We're
Mhm.
not going to have Claudia as a little girl for 100 years like we do in the book, right? Like there's several. It's almost 100 years that Claudia lives as a
Mhm.
child. Um, Here we'll probably, if they stick to the story, we'll probably get like 50 years.
Yeah.
You
But I
know,
like it. I like that they're ramping things up. They're moving things
yeah,
along. They're taking
yeah,
out all of the chunky, like, over explanation things that Anne Rice does, and they're like garbage. All right,
hmm,
moving on.
yeah,
You know,
hmm,
I like it.
awesome.
Um, the other thing I do like is the changes they've made with like vampires specifically. So like the
Hmm,
next part is we find out that Claudia hasn't fully healed from her human scarring. So she still
hmm,
has like scarring on her cheeks
yeah,
from when she was burned,
hmm,
as a human. I think that is very, very interesting.
same. It takes time for your body, like, because we know that when in this universe, when vampires bite you, it is
Hmm.
a process, right? It's not, oh, then you wake up and you're a vampire. It's, you are drained almost to dying, you bleed out, your body dies, your blood is now replaced by vampiric blood, and then after that process is complete, you wake up and you have your situation, right?
Hmm.
um if you're close to death. If you're not close to death, kind of similar thing, but more intense, as we saw with Louis.
Hmm.
Um, and I think that like the idea that it takes time to heal in general is something that I feel like is very much glossed over in the book.
Hmm.
Any kind of damage that's done to you as a vampire, the fact that like your hair, grows back and everything like that, right? Like we know there's that scene in, even in the movie, Claudia cuts all her hair off and 5 seconds later she's got all that hair back. So I
Hmm.
like the idea that like biologically and scientifically your body needs time to acclimate before you are in your true vampire form, and even then
Hmm.
it's going to take you time to heal. You're not like Wolverine where like he gets gored and 5 seconds later he's got no wounds. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's not superhero stuff, it's supernatural stuff, which I very much
Hmm.
enjoy too.
Yeah, I always find it compelling in stories where they're like, yeah, I'll heal, but like it's gonna be a bit, that
Mhm.
stabbing still hurt. I love that kind of element in stories.
Mhm.
Um, Next thing I gotta note, I really like that Claudia has a little siren song, and that's
Yes.
how she's luring people. That was
Yes.
very good to me.
Mhm. With her
Obsessed.
little humming near the
Hmm.
lamplighter. I'm like, "Don't go over
Hmm.
there, sir. Mind
Yep.
your business." Ah. Well, I
Yeah.
tried to tell you.
Again, amazing cinematography there.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Really nice
Hmm.
shadows. This show is so gorgeous. Like
Hmm.
that's something that's been so consistent. I have notes on that actually for the next episode. But
Perfect.
yeah, yeah, really great. I love that. I love how she like. So I love that only Louis and Claudia can talk to each other
Hmm.
because but Lestat can't hear them because like he's their maker.
Hmm.
And so like other vampires can hear each other in general, but your sire can't hear you, which I think is a nice touch, both cinematically, because like the audience gets to hear their inner thoughts and their inner conversations without Lestat being privy, but also and as a mechanic, right? Like not everybody's parents are good to them, right? Not everybody in life has healthy relationships with their family. So the idea that
Hmm.
the person who did this to you, especially if it's somebody who does it to you against your will, can't detect your thoughts, I think that's awesome because
Hmm.
it gives more agency to the vampires and makes them less like victims than survivors, right? Which I
Hmm.
think is great because not every vampire is created consensually, even, right? Some people,
Hmm.
like Claudia, wasn't created consensually. She didn't say yes to that. So I do really really like that specifically for that reason. Um, and I love how she just wreaks havoc on the city right away, like
Yep.
in true teen girl drama like
Yep.
form, right? She just immediately just gets fucking nuts and just goes
Hmm.
crazy. Like in that teens don't think they can die, teens are fearless, teens, don't exercise caution or any kind of best judgment, right? She just like does exactly what you would expect her to do as a teenager and just goes
Hmm.
buck wild.
My favorite line, she's like, I'm so hungry, I think I'm gonna die. In a
Yeah.
cute little southern accent. Cause like
Yeah.
what a vibe. What
You
a
poor
vibe.
thing. Yes.
Yeah.
And then how she calls him Uncle Les. I'm like, Uncle Les? Weird.
Yeah.
He is no one's uncle. Look at this man.
That's your weird father, okay? Like,
Yeah, he's daddy, okay?
yeah. Mhm,
let's
mhm.
let's be honest with ourselves here. I
So
also
funny.
think that like, oh, when they're fighting,
Mhm.
I have a note about the fighting. I don't want to get ahead.
Okay. Close. We're close. Um, so we get to the point where Claudia gets her own coffin and it's
Mhm.
adorable. It's pink. It's in the same bedroom as them. And
Yep.
my favorite thing is when they're going to pick it out and she's like joyfully jumping around. She's
Yeah,
like, I
she's
get
like
my own
laying in it.
coffin. Yeah. The guy's
He's like,
like,
"I'm so sorry. She's been diagnosed with a rare blood disease. She has only months to live." The guy's like, "She seems really healthy." Louis like,
yeah.
"I know. Final throes of death. Ah, we're gonna have to kill you, aren't we?"
Yep. So funny.
Damn it.
So funny. Like Louis really trying to cover, and Claudia's like la 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 la. She's like, I like this one because it's pink. I need a little more foot room, I think. Like
This satin is so soft. I love it.
mhm.
Like
Yeah,
zero
so
chill.
funny, so funny. This is when we find out that Claudia is supposed to be 14, so
Mhm.
that's pretty cool.
Yes.
Um, then we get so I love the scenes of Claudia writing in her little journal at night.
Mhm.
I
Same.
adore it. It's
With the little
so cute.
voiceover and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she's like, um, everybody was like kind of, getting ready for bed, and she's closed her little coffin lid and she's staying up and writing in her coffin. She hears something. She peeks out and she sees Louis, or she sees Lestat climbing into Louis's coffin, and she's like,
Mhm.
"Oh my god, diary! You will not believe." She's like, I think she said something about Daddy Louie and Uncle Les have a weird relationship or something like that. They think I don't know that they're in love. I'll let them think that. Whatever.
Oh my god. I love it
So
so
funny.
much. It's
Yeah.
so cute. Like it's
Yep.
really really cute and I love how she gets very like she's writing about it like it's juicy. Like
Yeah.
I mean like
It's her
cuz like
own
she's
gossip
it's
magazine.
her own gossip column like
Mm-hmm.
OMG. They got in together. And I love
Mm-hmm.
something else that I love too, right? So now they've got a kid
Mm-hmm.
and because they have a kid all of a sudden there's pajamas.
Yeah. I
Like
know.
suddenly there's pajamas in the coffin. I went, "Hold on a second. What is oh, they've got a child."
Yeah.
That's true. When you have a kid, you have to wear pajamas. That's very true. Okay,
I
I
think it's
understand.
funny that it's like basically this is vampire co-sleeping.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they start like murmuring things to each other in their coffin, like,
Yeah.
and she's like, "Ew, I don't want to hear that. I need
She's
my
like,
own room. Can
yeah.
you get my own room, please? I don't want to hear your weird whatever it is you're doing in there."
Yep. Or like, oh my god, we have to talk more about the talk Claudia and Louis being able to talk in a little bit after they get their own
Yes.
room. But
Yes.
oh my god, so good.
Mhm.
So good. And Claudia writing in her diary in her own gossip magazine, she's like, I'm trying to figure out how this love situation works between my dads.
Yep.
I don't really get it. But whatever, it's fine, I'm sure. It's just so funny. Just like watching Claudia discover the world brings me so much joy.
Oh, seriously.
Yeah.
And we also find out that like the woman that she was staying with, I think it's her aunt, right? Like her aunt or her
Mm-hmm.
grandma or something,
Mm-hmm.
and was sort of abusive, like was not very
Mm-hmm.
nice, and was like she was locked in that room, and her aunt was not going to let her out.
Yeah.
When the fire started, her aunt was like, "Yeah, I might come get you," and then died at the door. That's fucked up. I feel
It's really
bad for
fucked
her.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Claudia definitely has a better life now.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get put into reality. The current day. And Daniel sees Rashid praying, and he's like, I thought you worshipped Louis. Who are you praying to?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, what? What are you talking about? Because he's got like a prayer mat. He's
Mm-hmm.
facing whatever direction. I can't remember which direction it's supposed to be,
Mm-hmm.
but he's facing that direction, assumably.
Yeah.
And doing his like multi times a day prayer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But
As you
and
would
it just
expect, because they're in Dubai and you're like, okay,
yeah,
so maybe he's part of the local culture and that's why this is
yeah.
happening. Like it makes sense. But then he like is weird about it.
Mhm.
Rashid's like,
Immediately, as soon as this scene happened, for some reason, I looked at him and I'm like, vampire. I have
same,
it in my notes. I was like, he's a vampire.
same. Like, is this him just keeping up appearances? He doesn't seem to like know a lot about it. It seems like he's just doing it for like, I don't know, optics kind of.
Yeah.
Like same. I looked at him and I was like, Daywalker question mark?
Yeah, I was not sure what was going on, but I was like, he's vampire.
Mhm.
Um but yeah, it's funny because it's like now that we've finished, and I don't want to get too much into the ending,
Yeah.
but like we'll have to bring this back up later because I wonder if it's like more of his exploration in trying to relate to the modern people or
Mhm.
something, like he's trying something new. I don't know. We'll have to bring it up later. I don't want to spoil the ending yet.
Yeah.
But then we get after that scene thrown back into the past again with Louis.
Mhm.
The room flip to hide the coffin.
I love it.
So good.
Can I just tell you, as a child, all I wanted was a cool secret bookcase where you pulled of the right book and it opened into a little
Same.
room. As
Same.
an adult, I'm going to tell you this right now. Should I ever, as an elder millennial, be able to
Mhm.
afford a house that is going to be a renovation that I'm going to need in my home?
Me too. Big same. Because as soon as I can have an office, it's gonna look like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I my parents used to always take me when we were kids to go tour model homes all the time.
Hmm.
And there was one model home that had a secret entrance like that.
What?
Yeah. Like rich bougie house had a secret entrance like that. And I was like, jaw on the floor,
Yeah, I need it.
shaken.
I need
I
it.
immediately like pulled my parents aside. I was like, this if we like whenever we toured these houses, we'd always call dibs on which room would be ours in the model
Hmm.
home.
Of
And I was like,
course.
dibs, dibs, this one, all of it, mine,
I'm willing
dibs.
to fight for it.
Yeah. Well, it was interesting because I remember I think it was like a mother-in-law suite
Yeah.
behind a bookcase.
Yeah, but like, why does your mother-in-law need access to the room on the other side of the bookcase? She should only
Mm.
need one room. I don't want her popping in on me at any time.
Well, it just from like the house, it was to get into the mother-in-law suite. It was through this bookcase, so it was like you
I
had the
don't know.
I don't know.
That's
It was weird.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah,
It sounds like a mistress suite to me.
probably. Yeah, right. I don't know. It was a strange setup, but it was
Hmm.
a cool option.
Yeah,
I just like the idea of a hidden room.
big same.
Yeah. So, um, now we get to the point really where Louis cannot talk to his family anymore. He's scared the
No.
children.
Yep. He almost ate the baby.
He almost ate the baby.
Yep.
It's not working out.
No.
Um,
And everyone's like, "Hey, by the way, it's not working out."
yeah.
And Louis is like, "What do you mean? This is totally normal." And they're like, "No,
No.
I think you should go.
Yeah. His mom
We're
calls
having a
him the
hard
devil.
time." Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's like, yeah, Louis, I don't know how to break this to you, but like, no,
You're weird,
stop.
bud.
Yeah. He can't even be mad at them either because like he kind of just set himself up for failure here.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Is that when his mom passes?
Not yet. That's later.
Okay. Got it.
But yeah, it's like at that point where Louis brings Claudia around his family. I think this is the scene where he brings Claudia around his family, and the whole family is like, since when have you had a kid?
I
Where
don't
did you
understand.
steal this child?
She is 14 years old. We've
Yeah.
known you for 14 years. Thou hast not had a child. Can you
Yeah.
tell me why you have this child? Is it his child? Does he
Yeah.
have a child and this is now your child? What exactly is going on? And Louis like, "Aren't you just happy I have a child?" And they're like, "What are you doing with it?"
You're like,
Like
where'd
they're
you
looking
find
at him
it?
like, "I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's
So
weird."
funny.
His brother-in-law just doesn't even talk to him anymore. He just looks at him like, "Hmm."
Yeah, Claudia being like, Daddy Louie, I'm bored. Can we leave? It's
Oh my
so
god.
funny.
Oh my
So
god.
funny.
Literally read the room, Claudia.
Yeah.
Literally read it.
So good.
Oh my god.
So then we get to this point where Claudia has been growing up and she watches these people have sex for a little too long in the cars
Hmm.
before deciding to drink them.
Yeah,
And I was
on
like,
her walk with
"Hmm."
Lestat, though, right?
Yeah, this is where
Hmm.
Lestat brought her to basically a lover's lane situation.
Yes, yes. Good choice,
Um,
Daddy Lestat.
literally. And I'm like, this does not bode well. Things are not
No,
gonna.
no. You got teenage hormones and you're hungry. Recipe for
No.
disaster. It's bad.
Yep. So she's 18 now, we find out. So it's been 4 years they've had
Hmm.
her. And she's like, I want to dress like an adult. So gets a whole new little wardrobe.
Poor
Um,
baby.
gets made fun of on the street
Yep.
because
Almost
people are
eats a
like,
flock of women.
yeah, honestly, vibe though. They were being mean girls.
Agree.
Yeah.
Agree. And honestly, I mean, what do you do with a mean girl? You dispose of them, apparently.
Hmm. Claudia ends up having a crush on this boy named Charlie. And I was like, that's not gonna go well. It's not gonna
No.
go well.
No, it's impossible for that to go well.
Yeah, so he's like a carriage driver. Um and he's like doing the least romantic thing ever in which he is just dropping flowers on the ground whenever he passes her house.
Hmm.
And like I know I'm supposed to be like, "Oh, how kind and sweet," but like as a grown adult, I'm like that's bare minimum. Not even a great bare minimum, I feel like. I don't really love that. Not going to lie to
Hmm.
you.
Yeah.
Like it
No,
gives
it's
me
terrible.
the vibe of like when a dude pulls up to your house and honks the horn for you to come out.
Word.
Yeah.
Not sexy.
No, I'm like, okay. So Claudia and him meet up, go on some dates.
Hmm.
Then it gets steamy in the
It
back of a
does.
cab,
Yeah.
and they're like very close to,
Hmm.
going down and dirty, but
Yep.
she accidentally drinks him dry. She
Yeah.
confuses her emotions.
Yeah.
Rip.
It's rough.
It is bad.
It's rough. It's real sad, especially because she like goes to Louis and like asks like about the birds and the bees. Like she has like
Mhm.
a formal conversation with him. Like, tell me what the situation is. Like, what is this
Mhm.
about? Right? Like, how does all of this work? And like, I love how like delicate and ginger he is with her.
Mhm.
It's fatherly, but like without being overbearing.
Mhm.
And like her love for Charlie is so true. Like she really, really cares. And like Louis is like, we need to have a conversation with her, right? We need to talk to her. And Lestat's like, whatever. And he blows it off. And then that happens. And it's like, that could have totally been prevented if Lestat
Yeah.
had just been like, hi, so this is what you need to know. Don't be around
Mhm.
people that you love. Here's how to not drink people dry. Here's how to just take a sip, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's, I mean, the trauma that she's experienced is just horrible, right? Being responsible, not just the fact that like you've lost your love, right? Your first
Mhm.
love, but you're the person who ended their life and it wasn't even on purpose, right? You didn't even choose that for yourself. Like
Yeah.
they've basically turned her into a monster. There's like no other way for her to feel in that moment, you know?
Mhm.
Like she can't possibly feel normal. Like normal girls don't have to deal with that. So really sad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other hard part too is Lestat makes Claudia watches his body burns. And
Mhm.
this is the one time where I kind of understand why Lestat did it
Yeah.
because he wants to make sure she never does this again.
Right.
Like she has to deal with the consequences and like I know it's kind of fucked up, but like I do kind of understand.
Like I understand, I don't agree with it because I think
Yeah.
that Lestat is cruel. And this is an
Yes.
exercise in cruelty, right?
Yeah.
It's an exercise in cruelty because like
Mhm.
he is so divorced from his feelings as a person
Mhm.
that he doesn't realize she's already punishing herself, right? And like
That's
that's
fair.
basically what Louis tries to say to her, like, yo, like this is fucked up. Like she's already hurting herself. She's sad. She's upset. Like
Mhm.
this was not a good moment for her. Like she was in
Mhm.
love, right? Like this was important. And Lestat can't understand that. He can only understand
Yeah.
his own shit. So he's like, well, here's a teachable moment instead of just having a conversation, like
That's fair.
forces her to sit there and watch him burn. So like I see both sides. I feel like
Mhm.
he could have, I mean, like for example, your dog poops and you like bring him over to the poop and you're like, no, and you make sure the dog sniffs and is like, this is not where this belongs, right? Some
Mhm.
people will shove their animal's face into the
No.
poop, To
Mm-mm.
me, that's bad, right? That's crossing the line. So I feel like Lestat could have just been like, no, 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 and been very stern and kind of symbolically like, you watch this and then let her flee. But instead, he like holds her fast and
Yeah.
like she can't move. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So like that part is I think what like brings it over the edge. And like you see Louis kind of lose respect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think this is where they have their big French fight, right?
Mm,
There's it's somewhere
possible.
in this episode because I wrote about it.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in this episode, the two of them argue and they make up after.
Mm-hmm.
But they argue and like it's this like huge, loud, fucking angry, intense fight, but it's all in French
Yeah.
because like she can't really speak French and they're like, oh, that's gonna make sense if like she can't speak French, we'll just speak in French. So the whole time they're like blah 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 blah, and it's like really good, and they're getting like really in each other's faces, and it's actually kind of sexy. And they're like
Mm-hmm.
shouting at each other, and you can see everybody getting worked up. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it was in that moment that I decided I really like Sam Reed's French accent, and I can't get
Mm-hmm.
enough. Like it
Mm-hmm.
feels very clunky because he has kind of a deeper voice, so there's some parts where it feels like a little like almost guttural, like German sometimes sounds.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind that. It's actually really effective.
It's lovely.
Yeah, I'm really into
It
it.
reminds me of like when parents talk and spell it all out so their kids don't understand what they're talking about.
Yes,
Same energy.
that's exactly how it felt.
So
Yep.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. I love the two of them so much.
Same.
I honestly really like watching them fight. I don't know what it
Yes,
is. I
me
just
too. It's great. It's never a
it's
disappointment.
yeah, I think it honestly has to do a lot with the passion they have behind everything, you know?
Yes, agree.
So good.
Yeah.
So, Claudia starts absolutely spiraling and starts like using the sun to self-harm, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
"No. No."
Yep.
And that's where we end the episode, was with her arm out and this hole in the sky just going down on her arm, and it's oh, and she's just screaming.
Yeah.
Wild.
So
Absolutely
good.
wild. So that is all we're going to have time for today. Candace, where can the people of the internet find you and the stuff you do?
You can find me at that Candace girl, Candace on Twitter, where I post all about what's going on with me and I shit talk pop culture. You can also find me at Candace the Magnificent over at Discord and Instagram if you want to try and keep up with me there. I am a TTRPG streamer and I often do ukulele concerts and other fun stuff on my Twitch channel. So yeah, definitely look me up if you want more of my nonsense.
And we'll catch you guys next week with episode 5. Bye.
Bye.